In our previous tutorial on the flat glass tab, we were looking at the Add Items section where we were able to look up the parts that are in our parts file and add them to our ticket. You may recall that whenever we added a part that needed dimensions, it immediately went to our Dimensions tab so that we could add in dimensions so that the part could be priced. So now we're going to go over the Dimensions tab and how to add dimensions onto a part. So let's go back to our original part. In fact, let's just kind of start our ticket over here, clear everything off, start over. So we'll go back through our progression here on the Add Items tab to pick a part out. So let's just say we want a part that is, we'll go back here to our 5/8 inch part here, and we'll pick this first one here that had a required part on it. And now it immediately took us to our Dimensions tab. You can see at the top the dimension method was preset when we set up our part. We can, however, go and change that dimension method if we needed to. We can even take the dimension method off. We'll set it back to the way it was. And now you can see from the picture of our rectangle square there that we've got side B and side L, base and length. So we would simply go into the base section and type in our first dimension. And after I hit enter or tab, it takes us to L, our length. And we can then add in our length. So if we type in, if we need something that has a fractional value, we can type in our number and then a space and then our fraction. So we'll type 42 3/4 and then enter, and here it's asking us if we want to add that dimension to our other part that is grouped together with our first part. We'll just go ahead and say yes. And now that we've got our dimension in there, it's changed it to show it as 42 3/4 with the inches mark at the end of it. You can also use decimal places. If we were to do 42.75, it would just immediately change that over to a fractional number for us. Once we've added in our dimensions, you can see that towards the bottom there we've got our IV units, material units, and labor units. So it calculates the IV units and material units off of the dimensions that we've put in. You'll notice there that they are different from one another. And the reason for that is the IV units is the square footage that's going to be taken out of inventory. So that's just taking the dimension that we have and calculating exact square footage and taking it out. However, for pricing, the system can be set up to do it one of several ways. It can use the exact square footage, it can round up to the next inch, or it can round up to the next even inch. By default, the program is set to round up to the next even inch. So it's taken the 42 3/4 and rounded it up to 44, calculated the square footage off of that, and so it's basing our price off of 7.3333 instead of the 7.125. Now if you'd like to change that setting, you would just simply go under Administrator, Configuration, and go to the Dimension Rounding section. And you can see here we're set to even inch, but if you click on the down arrow, you can choose either no rounding or inch. So that is something to keep in mind when setting up your system. After we've added in our dimensions, we may have a piece, a shape that we'll need to end up cutting some extra away that's going to be waste, and we want to add that into our calculations. So we have our boxes down there at the bottom for OAB and OAL. That's overall base and overall length, and the plus means that this is the amount that we're going to add on to that. So if we go ahead and put in 2 here, it'll add 2 more inches onto our overall base and change the dimension to 26. And then we could do the same thing with the length. And if you noticed, our inventory units and our material units both changed, as well as our pricing changed because of the additional that we put onto our dimension. But however, our main dimension still shows up as 24 by 42 3/4, so that when we print out our ticket, the actual dimension of the piece is what is being shown. Now we can also do dimensioning on the part number itself. We have this column here for dimension, so we could actually, if we just delete that out of there, we can actually just type in there. We could just do the same thing. We could do 24 and then the letter X and then our 42, and the same thing if we want to do space and then 3/4. We could also use decimal points there. So you don't have to go to the dimensions tab. You can actually do the dimension right in the dimension section there on the part number itself. Over on the right hand side, we've got our section where it shows our item number, our part number, the quantity, and the description. We can change an item number. So if I wanted to change that from being item 1.01, I wanted it to actually be the second item and changed it to 2.01. We can confirm that. And now you see it's changed to item 2.01, and then item 1.02 now becomes item 1.01. And then we could even switch that back. And then again, it takes the second item and switches the item number on it as well. So that's a way that you can kind of move parts around on the ticket. You'll notice after I made it 2.01, it didn't move it on the ticket down to the second position. However, if I were to save that ticket, when I went back into that ticket, it would be in the second position. I could, of course, change the quantity up in the quantity box there, or down in the item section, I can change the quantity there. The description that you're seeing there is the category and the properties, 5/8 and clear, and then after that we had typed an additional description for the part in the part number field, and then the box below allows me to add more of an additional description. So if I type in there, that's an additional description, and then down in the part section here, if I click on this little box, any additional descriptions are in this window as well. Then below that we have our material price, our labor price, and the cost of the part listed there, and of course those are all down in the items section as well. Then I've got my section to the right there of where the dimensions were put in that I kind of skipped over. We're going to go back to that now. And these are just some additional things that you can use to create more of a description or additional description on the part. So if this part is something that you're going to be putting on a purchase order to send out to a manufacturer to create the part for you, and they need some more information, these might be helpful. If there's going to be a coating added to a particular surface, you can add that on to up to 6 surfaces. So if I check one of the coatings, you can see it automatically added that into the description there. I've got my orientation there, the outside looking in, inside looking out, vertical or horizontal. So you can just only pick one of those. And if you'd like to clear that off completely, just click on the X. There's a spot to put in a location. You can choose a logo type from the drop down. You can choose a logo location. If there's a pattern, and then if there's a drawing that accompanies your order that you want them to take a look at. And all again that's going to do is if you check something off or add something there, it's going to add it into your description to help better describe this particular part. And lastly, as far as the description is concerned, if you're not on the Dimensions tab, you can always just click on the box there and you can type in any description additions that you want in this window as well.